Hey, it's Big News Wednesday. So I'm gonna start off this Big News Wednesday first by welcoming Jayar. Jayar, thank you as always for being here. It's great to have you here. I'm also gonna say I am like way off, and I'm not. There's a few reasons possibly. There's something that happened last night that maybe I'll talk about during one of the breaks might be throwing me off. I don't know, I'm in a weird mood. I don't know if it's like, you do the midterms and that's like eating a bunch of candy. And then you're on like a sugar high for like a week. And then maybe like I'm crashing from that now that most of the election results are done. I don't know if that's what it is, Jayar, but I feel not burned out because the news is more positive than it has been. I feel a little bit weird and a little bit off. I don't know exactly what it is.
I think the term not burnt out, it's spit. It's a neutral energy. Burnt out is negative, excitable, whatever is positive. You just spit. You spit all you got, and you kind of need a reset.
Yeah, because like I said, the news is not bad. Like we've got some interesting news to come over here. I don't know. I just feel a little bit off. But anyway, that's just a heads up to the audience. And gets me out of a poor show. So anyway, that's what's going on, everyone. Thank you for being here. It is still, me and my issues aside, a Big News Wednesday because the 2024 presidential election has begun, technically, because we're gonna get into the announcement. Which candidate announced yesterday? None of you know, but don't worry, I'm gonna explain it. And then once we get past that, the Senate is actually doing something, so that's good news. And it's angering some on the right, which is even better news. So that's gonna be fun. We're gonna be giving you updates on terrible instance of police brutality from about a month ago, a good development in that story, and news on what it was that actually happened in Poland yesterday. And then in the aftermath, we've got Elon Musk being the absolute worst and making a fool out of himself in core, and we've got AOC on Ticketmaster, but we've also got plummeting sperm counts. I don't mean me, I mean everybody apparently, and we're gonna be talking about the implications of that and how that's being weaponized by the right. And in covering that, we're gonna get to bring back a classic Alex Jones clip that is hilarious. And so I can't wait to play that. In any event, in anticipation of all of that, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button and sharing the stream, that'd be great so people know we're live. And you can reach out to Jayar and myself via tweets, super chats, not Slack though, because Elon Musk might see that. And we'll respond as we go. But with all that said, Jayar, are you ready to start the show?
I think so. It's a lot. It's a lot.
There's a lot here. Why don't we dive into it, starting with this.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Yes, not content to lose the popular vote only twice in his life, failed presidential candidate and all-around pathetic sad sack Donald Trump has announced he wants to lose again and drag down Republicans with him. So I'm kind of here for it. We're gonna be covering all of the fallout from his announcement. What we're not gonna be doing though is playing much of what he had to say for a number of different reasons. First of all, it was very repetitive. It was mostly his rallies, condensed slightly, shifted a little bit. But also, I don't know, there's a good chance that many of you saw the like literal live coverage last night. You know what he had to say. We can summarize a lot of it, by the way, with this short little clip.
Thank you. And I'm a victim, I will tell you. I'm a victim. Think of it.
I think that'll pretty much cover it for the announcement and most of his campaign. Look, he did say some specific things about policy. He once again reiterated that he wants the government to put to death people who deal drugs. That's fun. He says he wants new voter identification standards. He doesn't want you to be able to vote except on election day. And he only wants paper ballots. I'm fine with paper ballot stuff, but the idea that They don't want early voting. They don't want mail-in voting. They don't want voting. Can we be clear about that? Republicans accurately have divined that they cannot win when many people vote, and so they're gonna try to limit it. He also wants to put a limit on congressional terms, which is fine. Some people support that. No Republican is going to support that if he becomes president, so that's a non-starter. And he says he wants to ban insider trading inside of Congress, pretending that he cares about corruption. Again, not a single Republican congressperson will support that. So all of that is meaningless. Much of this is meaningless, Jayar. I don't know. What do you think?
It's, as you said, it was expected. It's what people were looking for. But the end, as he went through, I did watch and listen to the whole thing. And you said many people probably did. No, they didn't. Because if I didn't have to, I wouldn't have either. There was like fascinating things on TV. There was a few commercials and everything. I was like, this is fabulous. Mr. Clean has a new wipes. Oh, it's awesome. That was so much more interesting than this entire thing. He went through and droned through all of those normal things and talking about even we got men and women's sports, and then we got to worry about our inflation, and then but none of it had anything to do with how he's gonna change or fix this stuff. Just constant, the same old repetitive complaints and complaints and complaints, and then moving slowly, and then asides, and then getting distracted, and then coming back to it, and then saying Joe Biden's senile, and then saying he can't do this, and oh my God, he can't do that, and I'm gonna bring back glory, and then rainbows and butterflies. Everyone had tons of money when I was president. People were floating on clouds, and now look, it's death and destruction. Our foreign enemies were like, oh my God, America is back, and oh my God, they're scary. They're gonna murder us. Let's just concede now and give them everything that we have. All that was said, I'm not exaggerating. But that somehow is part of a presidential announcement from someone like this. At his worst moment, which Chris Sununu said, sitting on one of these biggest losses and talking about how it's not his fault. All this was included in about an hour and 10 minutes of him just announcing that he's running for president. I remember I was waiting for the announcement. It took me like 30 minutes. I was like, okay, he's finally getting there. And then he didn't. Then another 10 minutes. Then he finally got there. And I was like, okay, he's gonna leave in like 5 minutes. This is the end. No, another like 25, 30 minutes of rambling.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't get a lot of it. I feel like there were opportunities to, if he was going to accomplish anything in this, it's less about just announcing that he's running. It's been pretty clear for a few months at least that he's gonna do that. What he needs to do from his point of view is either lay out some new strategy that he's gonna run on, which we don't have. It's a mishmash of 2016 and 2020 era Trump. And neither of those campaigns resulted in a majority of the electorate choosing him. So great strategy, buddy. But what he needed to do was to, I don't know, attack DeSantis or Abbott or Youngkin or something like that. And he didn't even really do that, which at least would have been entertaining. But I kind of suspected that, which is why, look, respect to you for watching the whole speech. I went and saw Black Panther. I was living my life. I'm not saying that the announcement doesn't matter, or that him running for president doesn't matter. It does matter. There are very high stakes in this, and we're going to be covering it over the next 2 years. Between now and the election, I am unfortunately gonna have to talk about him for 372 hours. I don't know, it's gonna be a lot. But each individual speech isn't necessarily important. He's not that interesting or dynamic of a guy. I know that his supporters think he is, but he is highly repetitive. And even we were talking about this in our production meet this morning. They'll hear he's coming to do a rally in their town. Okay, he's finally gonna be here. I get to see him, put on my hat, and it's MAGA. Then they go and they line up and they have to wait for hours. They go in there and then a lot of them leave early, because it's not that entertaining. And in fact, why don't we turn to that now? Because whether I found it interesting or not is largely irrelevant to the MAGA movement. The issue is that many of them didn't find it interesting. Let's jump into this next video.
Remember I sent to Angela? Remember Angela? Do you remember Angela? Nobody's remembering her now. Angela Merkel.
Just joining us, President Trump in Mar-A-Lago announcing his 2024 presidential run.
That is Sean Hannity not being able to bear hearing any more of Donald Trump's presidential announcement speech. That wasn't me cutting from Trump. That was Sean Hannity cutting from Trump. And for once, I get it, Sean. What was that Angela Merkel stuff? No, nobody remembers Angela Merkel. No one in the MAGA movement is tuning in to hear how people aren't giving enough credit to Angela Merkel or whatever it is that you're talking about there. And they did not return to his speech for some time, by the way. Look, many of the networks were playing it live, but it's tough to sit there and listen to that and watch your audience just fade away. And again, it wasn't just the audience at home, it was the audience literally at Mar-A-Lago, at this, like the epicenter of the MAGA movement. Take a look at this.
Help is on the way. Joe Biden has abolished America's borders. We are going to restore and secure America's borders just like we had them before, best ever. We built the wall, and now we will add to it. Now we built the wall. We completely.
That is, according to Olivia Rubin of ABC, a crowd that was forming at the exit of the ballroom who wanted to get out of that speech early, and security would not let them leave. Which I don't understand how that's even legal. It kind of seems like they were casually kidnapping those people so the room wouldn't empty out. And I sort of get it from the point of view of the security, because if like 30 people leave, demonstrating that you can just go if you want to, how many people would have remained in that room by the end? But that was, again, this is Mar-A-Lago. This is the heart of it all. They're there and they can't stand listening to this. It takes more than a little bit of gilded columns to paper over that this is a movement that is, it's like on its last legs. Look, honestly, I'm gonna give credit to Jeb Bush Jr., who tweeted out, wow, what a low energy speech by the Donald. Time for new leaders, #weak, #sleepy Donnie. It's taken a long time, many years, but Jeb's finally getting his revenge against Donald Trump. Jayar, what do you think?
Yeah, well, first of all, the Sean Hannity cutting from the Angela Merkel part, he droned on a little bit longer. He's like, no one remembers Angela, and he like imitated the way she talks to him, similar to the way that Rudy Giuliani imitated the way that I think he said like the Queen talked to him at one point. For some reason, that's just a thing for them, regardless. But also, I didn't realize that people were trying to leave and they kept them in. I wish I'd have known that part. That's fabulous. Because think about it this way: if security is keeping people from leaving, coordinating, making sure that people don't leave, it means they anticipated that people might want to leave. And they made sure that people were in place to stop them from leaving. So they know how boring this was. They know he was gonna drone on and on and on. Every time I see one of these speeches, I thought about it when Obama was in office and when now Biden is in office. When these guys get up here and make hour and 15-minute long speeches, I go back to the beginning and go, I'm gonna look at his face, because that's the point when you have to step up and go, okay, I'm about to read this for an hour and 15 minutes.
I know.
This is so exhausting just to do. But they had to hoard people in. I assume that's a fire hazard. What about fire escapes? The fire department might want to know that you're hoarding people into a building, and in case of an emergency, they're not allowed to leave. It's dangerous.
Yeah, I feel bad for anyone who was watching this live without Cenk to provide jokes and bust nuts and color commentary along with it. Like, if they're occasionally cutting to like a reaction shot of Anderson Cooper or something, that is not enough. Like, you gotta at least. And look, Cenk's, I watched Cenk's reaction to the speech. His takeaway from it is a little bit different from me, but you at least have to have that commentary to get through.
So his takeaway is different than his commentary, because you said the commentary.
No, the commentary was fun and interesting. His takeaway, like his evaluation of how successful the speech will be for the MAGA movement, was a little bit different than mine. But anyway, look, it is possible that Trump was just having an off night or something. That's possible, but this is your big night. Like, if you were ever gonna be energized, wasn't it gonna be for this? And Trump now has to go and campaign, and not even just for the normal length of time that you campaign. He decided to start it 6 months early. So now he needs to do it for even longer. And look, you can make the case that maybe the last couple of years haven't weighed on Trump as much as like on Biden maybe, but they have weighed on him, and he wasn't young in 2015. Trump he's collapsing in on himself at this point. And I know that he's decided that he's gonna spend his last years on earth, rather than just enjoying all of his money and all of that, he's gonna be flying around the country, speaking to people he doesn't respect. That's his choice or whatever, but now he's in for a long haul. because the election is like 720 days away at this point, Jayar.
Jesus. So there's another part about this. I mean, the one interesting thing he could have said that would have been the first moment of truth in that whole thing is, I'm running for president of the United States yet again to avoid prosecution, accountability, and anyone else coming after me for the litany of crimes that I've been accused of, and they're pretty good at proving out that I committed them. I need to avoid some kind of responsibility to this because I'm a Republican and we pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, and we also believe in a personal responsibility. None of that is the case, obviously, but the degrees to which he's looking to continue to stay away from those issues is to run for president again, which, again, it doesn't look like he has the energy for.
Yeah.
But it's either that or consequences.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about those consequences a little bit more later. But first, let's turn to, we showed you the video of who was there. Noteworthy who wasn't at Trump's announcement last night. That's where this gets a little bit more fun. Matt Gaetz, who's from the area, loves Donald Trump, supposedly, suspiciously wasn't there. He told the Associated Press that he'll be there in spirit for the launch of Trump's third bid for the White House, but won't take the flight down from Washington, D.C., citing bad weather. He really shouldn't have cited anything because when you make a claim, that could be fact checked, and this one didn't work out for him. More than 80% of departures out of Reagan National Airport were leaving on time, despite, as the Yahoo News describes it, some on and off drizzles that swept across the city after lunch. So you could have just said, like, we're doing a leadership vote and we have to get ready to stop the Democrats in the last couple of weeks. That's why I have to be here. You decided to make it about the weather, and that's clearly not the reason you didn't go, Matt Gaetz. So now we have to wonder, why did this close, longtime ally of Donald Trump, a virtual surrogate for him on Fox News, turn on him during his big announcement? That's interesting, but it's not just Matt Gaetz. Ivanka Trump put out a statement on Instagram saying, "I love my father very much. This time around, I'm choosing to prioritize my young children and the private life we are creating as a family. I do not plan to be involved in politics. While I will always love and support my father, going forward, I will do so outside the political arena." And so she wasn't there and isn't gonna be involved in his inevitable third loss for the presidency. It's also not clear at this point whether Jared Kushner will be involved in the campaign. He was at least there, so a bit of a difference. I thought the whole focus was gonna be on their family. I guess she's gonna focus on the family. He's gonna focus on, I don't know, getting more investment dollars from the sovereign wealth fund of Saudi Arabia. I don't know. He wasn't there. Don Jr. wasn't there. He was hunting out west and unable to catch a flight due to weather. Dude, that was already stolen by Matt Gaetz. You gotta come up with a new one. By the way, he was hunting out west. Okay, I can't catch a flight. He announced that he was gonna be doing this at least a week ago. I feel like you kind of chose to not be able to catch a flight, which is interesting. Now, Eric Trump apparently was there. Okay, so he gets to be the son that has a chance of getting a hug from daddy that night. Don has taken that away from himself. Trump described Eric during the speech as having unfairly received, quote, more subpoenas than any other man in history, while comparing him to Al Capone, Billy the Kid, and Jesse James. I get that, like, Trump thinks that makes Eric sound cool, but it makes him sound like a criminal to me. So anyway, the family even seems to be splitting on this run, Jayar. What do you think?
Well, they're trying to stay away from. They see what was happening. They saw what happened the first time. They said, we can take this ride, and they didn't think. I'm gonna go off of the assumption that the way the Republican Party didn't think he could win the first time around in 2016. They saw the results. They're like, well, I kind of got dragged along with this sinking ship for 4 years the first time. I'm not a part of this anymore. And also maybe the Matt Gaetz is the Ivanka's. Who else did show up? Eric did show up. Trump Jr. Donnie Jr. didn't show up as well, but they didn't want to be trapped in a room. I mean, small bladders, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you gotta take a break. And they're like, I heard that they had security making sure no one got out of their seats, and they didn't provide any, porta potties in the room, so we have to leave. But no, the whole idea is to stay away from the problem, but they can't say that out loud. Look at all that they went through with Ivanka and then Jared and all that. And then there's other Republicans that turn on them. Then you see the wild anti-Semitism, and you see him trying to do this and do that, but they're all still part of benefiting from him. They're just like the rest of the Republican Party, who's like, we'll take the ride, but now that we can't ride anymore, it's not benefiting our power and our money, We're done with you, bro. Family's no different.
It's so weird. I don't get the Don Jr. thing. He was apparently at the Tiffany Trump wedding like 4 days ago, 5 days ago. I gotta go hunt. No, don't worry, I'll totally be back. I just have to go kill something and then I'll totally be here. And he tweeted, that he still supports Trump and he wants him to be president. So it's not like he's really putting a big distance between us. So why not show up? It's just sort of weird. I don't know. Anyway, I do not want to leave you with the impression, though, that no one is supporting him or defending him. We have to be fair. That is actually happening. Why don't we jump into spokesperson for Trump, Liz Harrington, who admittedly is paid to defend him. Here's what she had to say about the announcement.
I think we've seen those games throughout the 2020 campaign. They don't think that they don't want the American people to hear directly from, the biggest leader of the greatest political movement in our history. So I do suspect they'll try to, censor and cut away. However, the people are anxious to hear from him. I mean, we do not have the First Amendment. It's under attack.
Okay, I understand that there's not a single right-winger. There's scarcely anybody in America who actually understands what the First Amendment is about. But there is no constitutional right to having major broadcast news networks playing the entirety of your live speech. That's not in there. I don't know how it would be. The founding fathers had never heard of MSNBC. That's just not a thing. It's not censorship for them to cut away or to not broadcast it at all. There are lots of speeches going on as I sit here. Lots of speeches will be made. You don't have to cover all of them. And by the way, many of the networks did play significant portions of it. Yes, some cut away, and I will add, Fox News was one of those. And by the way, Rupert Murdoch has apparently told Trump that he and Fox News will not be defending Trump and supporting him during this presidential bid. But again, Liz, that is not at all what the First Amendment is about. That's a ridiculous claim to make.
Isn't that a horrible admission by Murdoch? We will not be supporting and defending him this time around, which means you supported and defended him the last time around. Yeah. Is that based off of truth or is that based off of partisan politics coming from a place that talks about fair and balanced all the time? Come on, bro. There was one other part of, Liz Harrington stuff. Yo, so I mean, my daily calls to CNN to have them air my show, The Watch List, every morning. They still haven't picked up on it yet. My First Amendment rights have been violated, and I want some satisfaction. I'm an American, damn it. I'm gonna make my call tomorrow, see if this gets fixed. This is a shame.
I know. There has not been a violation of First Amendment rights this bad since I told InfoWars they have to put TDR on. Because he was claiming when he was taken off of YouTube that was a violation of his rights. Well, okay, I want access to your audience. Put me on, buddy. I don't actually want to be on InfoWars. But anyway, no, they don't understand any of this. And again, as I said, many people did play. I mean, hell, TYT played the majority of the speech. And it was covered pretty much everywhere. So in some cases, pretty irresponsibly though. C-SPAN tweeted out a section of the speech with this. This is the caption. Former President Trump concludes, "We will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make," I'm gonna stop there at that point. It goes on and on and on. I don't necessarily understand why C-SPAN broadcasts the speech. That seems weird. But if they're gonna broadcast it, Jayar, can we put that tweet back up again? Am I crazy? Or is that not how C-SPAN would normally put up a section of a speech? I think that looks like Trump's campaign tweeted that out.
Well, because I mean, they can go with, "This is what he said. We're just saying what he said." I've noticed I've been a very loyal C-SPAN watcher for about 15, 20 years now. Mm-hmm. It's weird. I go to that site a lot. There are some changes. They're doing different things with how they break it down, how they have access to different speeches. I actually appreciate C-SPAN as far as the way they break it down. I did know they tweeted this out this way, but I do think maybe they're, the escape route to this is, he said these things. All we're doing is saying what he said. Not that you have to agree or disagree. So I'm okay with them on that. But I think they're trying to get more accessibility, or at least more people going to them versus the, I guess, OANs that carried this.
Sure.
They'll carry it since it's an announcement.
I guess they put a lot of it up. How did they even fit that many letters in a tweet? That looks like twice as much of a tweet as most people get. I don't understand it.
Do they have the new blue check? Maybe it's a new feature.
Yeah, no, and look, I checked. It is the actual C-SPAN. It's official, by the way, according to Twitter, for whatever that's worth. And other people covered it too. The New York Post made sure that people knew about it with this, which I just love. The Florida man makes announcement, page 26. Ouch. But some people did like it. Well, Fox officially might not support him, but Mike Huckabee was on Fox saying that Trump was unbeatable in 2024, which that's a bold claim. He literally lost the last time he raced. Now, he did also say that he didn't get why he was announcing now. He thinks it was a bad idea. So even the guy who says, oh no, he's totally gonna win, is like, could you like wait until Herschel Walker has a chance of winning this thing? Because you're gonna make him look really bad. And it's pretty clear coming out of that speech that Trump continues to want you to tie in your mind Herschel Walker to him. I'm perfectly happy with the voters having that in mind. I don't think it's gonna help out Herschel Walker in this runoff.
Can I say one small thing about the what's his name, the idiot Huckabee? So you can say and criticize and talk about his timing of it, but at the same time say he's unbeatable. All that's doing is normalizing. Every time you hear something from even people who support him, like Huckabee, say something that's bad about his approach, strategy, technique, policies, principles, any of that stuff. If you hear anything negative about this guy, you can bypass it and go back to, don't forget he's unbeatable though. That's the way that you put these people in these trances, so that no matter you hear about accusations, criminal issues, ineptitude when you're in office, all those things you hear constantly, you can always separate it and go, yeah, those things happened, but he's unbeatable. From the same mouth, the guy who said he's unbeatable, he has issues. You can't say, hey, the Bucks and the NFL are gonna win the Super Bowl this year, but they keep fumbling. Well, they can't win if they keep turning the ball over, bro. Which one is it? You can't say they're the best team, but then also they suck at what they do. One of the small intricate parts of the game that will determine wins and losses. Let's keep it real.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And as a person who recently went to a Rams game, I get that analogy, and I'm right there with you, sports bro.
All on board. John, if if John's not here next week, he's got picked up for the head coaching position with the Rams.
I pretty much get it. You know, there's some passing, there's some running. You switch back and forth between the two, and then you probably get it done. Anyway, I want to talk about one other aspect of this. I would like to make a special comment / request to the DOJ following Trump's announcement, and a little bit to the media too. I'm not as mad at the media when they say things like, well, indicting Trump is gonna be messier now, because they're not necessarily expressing their values. They're describing a situation. I still think it's a little bit apathetic and passive, but whatever, I'll give the media a pass on that. But when it comes to the DOJ, I know that even as I speak right now, Merrick Garland and a bunch of other people whose obligation, the entire point that they're drawing a salary as a member of the Department of Justice is to enforce the law. Instead, they're sitting cloistered in a room like, I don't know if we can indict him. I mean, think about the things he will say. And everyone is worried about the things that he will say and the things his defenders will say and his spokespeople will say and his surrogates will say. And here's the thing, they're right in that he will say many things. He'll say, they're only doing this because I'm a candidate. They're only doing this to take me down. They're trying to stop our movement. They will bleat and bleat and bleat that they're victims. But I will remind you, members of the DOJ and Merrick Garland, did you know that you have mouths too? Like the media figure, do you get that you can speak as well? That the people who will craft the narrative of what an indictment means will not exclusively be defenders of Donald Trump, or at the very least, they don't have to exclusively be those people. That when they come out and say, you're only coming after me because I've announced it for the presidency, you can respond quite accurately and quite rationally that you only announced so early, historically early, to ward off an indictment that you knew was coming. And regardless, you did the crime. At the end of the day, maybe if you didn't want to be targeted, don't make it so eminently easy to target you when you're committing the crime in the open and admitting it in your rallies. You guys can respond to this. Biden can give speeches. The January 6th commission, that may be gone with the House being destroyed, but every member of it, except for Liz Cheney and Kinzinger, are still there and they can still go on the news. You guys can press the advantage, and in doing so, you can feel, I don't know, you can have the wind at your back by knowing that the American people in race after race after race have rejected Donald Trump. They've already given you the strong signal in rejecting so many of his strongly endorsed candidates that they're not on his side. They don't buy his claims about him being a massive martyr and a victim. And they do actually want some semblance of sanity and respect for the law. If that isn't going to make you feel comfortable wading into this messy area of indictment, then I don't know what will at this point. Jayar, what do you think?
It's hard to add to that, John. That was excellent. It puzzles so many people trying to figure out the next steps here. And the way that they squeezed in, you talk about the loss of the House, where they squeezed in those last couple of January 6th committee hearings to allow people to see and give the opportunity for them to follow up on what we've seen, what we've heard, and what has been said. I believe there was even more things still coming out. Who was his accountant at the Trump org? Weisselberg?
Yeah. There were some headlines today.
Still things happening there. Those things continue to change. And if you think Trump doesn't realize that, and the timing, as Huckabee was then saying, hey, that's the one weird thing with this timing. The one thing these guys who are now suddenly have the courage to say Donald Trump is a loser and we can't keep following him down this road, what they won't say is he's doing this because he's trying to get away from any and all responsibility for the things that he's been accused of. I was gonna say all the crimes he committed. We'll get there. But those things he's been accused of, they still can't say that part. That's the main reason. Because then maybe it might sweep them into this whole thing too, because they supported him while he was committing those crimes.
Exactly. Well, we'll see. Supposedly, if an indictment is gonna come, it's gonna come soon. Don't invest too much of your life force into that outcome. Okay, let's talk about something productive being done. The Senate is going to be holding a vote, possibly today, on whether to advance legislation to establish a federal recognition of same-sex marriage rights. There's some procedural hurdles that need to be moved past, but it's believed it will pass because enough Republicans have expressed support for it. They believe they will get the 10 needed to pass a filibuster. This is the Respect for Marriage Act. It repeals the Defense of Marriage Act, while also mimicking the name in a little bit, in a little way. I like that. It safeguards interracial marriage by requiring the federal government to recognize valid marriages regardless of sex, race, ethnicity, or national origin. So they're lumping in quite a bit of protection against the possible assaults that might come at the state level from Republicans trying to use this as the next avenue of attack following the destruction of Roe v. Wade. So previously, they could have passed this before the midterms. It might have been a good idea electorally to do so, but unfortunately, Chuck Schumer agreed to postpone the vote because some Republicans said that the formulation of it at that point would endanger religious freedom. So they changed it with an amendment to ensure that nonprofit religious organizations will not be required to provide services, facilities, or goods for the celebration of a same-sex marriage, and protects religious liberty and conscience protections available under the Constitution and federal law, including the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. So the House still has a period where they can follow on with the same exact language. It is believed that this will be able to be finalized before what is likely to be a change in the House, which we expect any day now. The last election for the 218th seat for Republican could go through. So this is likely to actually pass. Jayar, what do you think?
I guess it's a plan to move forward. This is one of those, I wouldn't call it panicked. I wanted to, but last ditch moves once you see the results of what was going on, and at least Senate is still around, or at least will be around for this next stage of this. As you're gonna get to the folks that are in support of hate and taking away people's rights, they're upset about this whole thing. How dare they want to talk about codifying same-sex marriage? It's not like we were coming for it, except the fact we've been talking about how we're coming for it. And if you're not coming for it, then what are you so upset about? Is the next question. But also on top of that, there was one thing in the middle of that. It could endanger religious freedom. They just throw terms out there because they're either in support of something like that or they're afraid of something else. How is it that two people of the same sex getting married in Texas, in Florida, in New Hampshire, how about even in Idaho, John? If there's two people who are gonna get married of the same sex, how is this endangering your religious freedom, your freedom to worship whatever deity you want. Your freedom to go to churches and open up a book and read from it. Your freedom to listen to someone in the front tell you things to believe and how to go about your life. And if you then leave and live your life. What happens across the country when two folks get married? And then do you feel this twinge in the back of your head? You go, oh my God, I can no longer read the Bible because Jim and Steve got married. I can't believe it. This is a disaster. This is endangering my religious freedom. It doesn't make any damn sense. It's a scare tactic to make it seem like these two getting married that you'll never encounter, hear about, or talk to are somehow infringing on your life. Because the reality is, it doesn't do anything to your life. So we have to make up something.
Yeah, 100%. And bear in mind, back when they were arguing against this, like if you go back and see all the things they were saying about the downfall of civilization, this is gonna take everything down. There goes America. Oh my. And we were like, well, that seems weird. I can't imagine how that'll happen. And what do you know? Had no negative reaction that literally anyone can track. Weird how that works out. Some still opposed to it, as we'll move to, but good to see that more Republicans are actually willing to vote for this. That is progress, not nearly enough. It's not gonna be 100-0 or anything, but that's good news. Even the Mormon Church has come out in support of the law. They still have religious issues with it, but this does represent at least some progress. And considering some of the culture wars of the last 2 years, the attacks against the trans community, seeing progress like this, even mild progress, I'll sign up for that. With that said, let's move to this next video.
Any Republican who would sign on to a bill like this, I don't care if they have this weak, they've created this Trojan horse now where they're pretending that they're protecting religious liberty. Doesn't matter. Any Republican who would sign on to that should be exiled from the party. It won't happen because this is the direction the whole party is going, but that's what should happen.
So that is Matt Walsh reminding us once again that he spends every moment of his day obsessively thinking about what other people do in their private lives. Things that have no effect on him, cannot have an effect on him, are his one concern. He is, in every way that matters, a digital Karen. He's bored with his own life, and so he's got to get involved in yours, and especially, always, endlessly your sex lives. There is no one more interested in your sex life, including you, than Matt Walsh. I almost said Matt Gaetz. Depending on if you're a teen, maybe he's also really interested in your sex life. But no, Matt Walsh never stops thinking about what other people are doing behind closed doors. He's thinking about which ways you're pairing up. He's thinking about the status of your genitals. He just really wants to know what's going on with your life because apparently he can't get anything interesting going in his own life. And then he projects his own ridiculous, boneheaded, dogmatic views onto the rest of the party and the country, saying, oh, they're only supporting this because of this Trojan horse of religious liberty. Is it possible that some of them are not as endlessly obsessed with other people's sex lives as you? Maybe they don't see a good reason to oppose it. And him saying that it's probably not gonna happen. They're not gonna be literally cancel cultured out of the Republican Party as he would want, because that's the status of the Republican Party. Maybe it is, but also is it possible that it's the status of the country? That maybe you've decided to live your life as if you're a Republican from the 1960s, but others notice that nobody in the country agrees with you on this issue. Bear in mind, Matt Walsh was enthusiastic about going way beyond just the destruction of Roe v. Wade. He was telling Republicans to make this central, to go farther. How did that work out for Republicans in the midterms? I honestly hope Republicans keep listening to this guy because it has killed so many of their campaigns. But Jayar, what do you think?
I've got some beef. I'd like my religious freedom back. Pharmaceutical companies, gas, oil companies, gouging people for prices. They're destroying people's lives. My religion says that you shouldn't be gouging people. So this is an infringement on my religious freedom. You can insert any kind of political policy you want and say this is infringing on my religious beliefs. It doesn't have to make any sense as long as you just say it, because religion, as long as I say religion, then you guys have to listen to me. It doesn't make any sense. So maybe that should be the next approach. But on to Matt Walsh and this whole thing about how you can't sign on to this whole thing and it's gonna be disastrous. And I think also Ben Shapiro, you can't be a Republican if you're all about this. How does this help with the thing we've been complaining about? How does this help with what they're saying Americans are concerned with? gas prices, inflation, not enough food on the table. How is it stopping folks from getting married is gonna help you in those other situations? If you put the 2 and 2 together, you realize the people that you're voting for that will not stop talking about this are just are preying on your fears, your hatred, your bigotry constantly. How is this helping you? There was a video before where some guy asked his, stupid MAGA cousin. He goes, "So what has it gotten better about your life since Donald Trump took office?" No answer. All they can say is there's no men, women, sports, bathrooms. You've never seen any of those things. Has nothing to do with your life. This is about them using you and your fears and preying on your hatred, what they know you've got in your heart, to try and get power for themselves. Just pay attention to how much they're actually doing something about these things versus what they actually implement when they do get some control. Because those are the things they care about. We saw it with Trump tax cuts. That's what they got done.
Yeah. Well, in this case, at least, while we can play this video and mock him, he's gonna lose. I mean, he's already lost culturally, socially, and all that, but also in terms of the vote, he's gonna lose. And so that's another good day in America. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna take a little break. And when we come back, we're gonna give you an update on what happened yesterday in Poland, as well as a small but good update on an instance of police brutality. We'll be back in just a few. Okay. Janet says in the YouTube comments, John, at Trump's announcement speech, everyone got a gift bag consisting of classified documents, self-tanner, and a donation form. Nice. Okay, let's close out the hour with some news. Yesterday, live on the show, we received the first indication that something had gone horribly wrong in Poland, and a missile had apparently struck, killing at least 2 people. Now, initially, the concern was, did Russia attack Poland with a missile? We declined to comment immediately because there was not nearly enough information from which to do so. And it's a good thing that we did that because we're learning more about this attack and it doesn't seem to be what it seemed initially. Now, Poland and NATO are saying that the missile strike wasn't a Russian attack, or at least it wasn't the sort of Russian attack that we believed. Andrzej Duda, the president of Poland, said on Wednesday that the explosion that killed 2 people near the country's border with Ukraine appears to be an unfortunate accident, not an intentional attack. Duda said it's very likely the explosion was caused by Ukrainian air defenses. The missile, quote, unfortunately fell on Polish territory as Ukraine defended itself against about 100 Russian strikes. But he added that the projectile that caused the blast was most likely Russian made, but officials have no proof at the moment that it was a missile fired by the Russian side. So Ukraine has denied blame for it. They've accused Moscow of an escalation. Russia has denied responsibility, but both NATO and Poland are saying it appears that Ukraine might have shot down a Russian missile and that ended up killing people in Poland. So really, who is responsible depends on how you define the word responsible. If they shot down a missile that was being fired at Ukraine, then it's not just Ukraine that's responsible. Russia did fire the missile, but it seems like in defending themselves, they might have inadvertently killed a couple of people in Poland. So regardless of the explanation and regardless of whether we learn anything more about this, Jayar, it is still a tragedy. People have lost their lives regardless.
Yeah, more of the the natural things that come from something like war. Again, another reason not to needlessly engage in it. So yeah, when you have missiles being fired and then defense systems and then random innocent folks, 2 folks died because of this just the other day. Another indication as to why this type of stuff we was discussing in the first place. And there's violence all over the world and we see this happen a lot. So yeah, I guess it's, I hear people complain about how there's certain things we pay attention to and we see what's going on in other countries. But this is just one of those things that then small, which would seem like small things, could then escalate to others because nobody's gonna take responsibility. Or when we find out what it was that did happen, it's we did this because of the first strike and then we're just responding and didn't mean to do that. Now you got there's folks who don't want those answers. Who cares about those answers? People are dead because of someone else's ego and someone else trying to acquire land or whatever political reasons are. These people go behind this stuff. But it's just another indication just how bad this is. For seemingly no reason, it sucks.
Yeah, and it's just whenever something like this happens, I just think about like those 2 people in Poland, their families, going day by day as this conflict continues, having no way to know, no reason to believe that their lives could end up being taken because of this totally needless war. It's just another reminder. It's your 10,000th reminder that this shouldn't have happened. It didn't need to happen. It didn't need to be continued. Literally any day could be the last day of this war. But unfortunately, Russia has declined to end it, despite it going so poorly for them almost from the very beginning. Anyway, if we get more information, we will continue to update you. As of this point, this is the most updated information we have.
And speaking of which, sorry, last thing, if you have this type of report go out, and how many people will see that update or will go back and check? You may hear just in passing, oh yeah, there was this Russian strike on Poland, and that's where it sits with a lot of people, without any other things that happen with it, and who knows what the then response comes from that or the opinion based off it. There's nothing good about this.
Yeah. Okay, well, with that, let's turn to somewhat more positive news. This is very much our silver lining sort of news, but let's talk about it. We want to give you an update on Eric Cantu Jr. So he's a 17-year-old that has been in the hospital for weeks following him being attacked viciously by a police officer while he was just trying to eat food outside of a fast food restaurant. The cop apparently mistook him for someone else, approached his car, and when he didn't comply quickly enough, began firing at him, even firing at Eric Cantu Jr. as he was driving away. He was totally innocent and has been in the hospital for literally weeks as a result of it. Well, he has now woken up. He is, you can see in this photo here that he's able to, see his family. He has survived the most critical period. It's been 6 weeks. His father put out a statement saying, by the grace of God, along with all the prayers sent by the masses, we are emerging victoriously from this unfortunate event. We still have one more potential surgery and weeks and months and years of rehab, but he's proving he can do it. He was shot way back on October 2nd by James Brennan, the probationary officer who has thankfully been fired shortly after that. And so we're not gonna show you the video again. I think that there is value in seeing this stuff so that it can make real to you. But at a certain point, people have seen it. I don't want to traumatize people by them seeing it anymore. It's one of the most devastating things I've seen, how instantaneously this cop decided that he was going to do everything in his power to kill a totally innocent teenager. But thankfully, he did not succeed, and it looks like Eric is going to recover, albeit it's going to take a long time.
So after it's all said and done, this cop who said he recognized him from a previous traffic stop in a stolen car that ran off, I think that was the story, right?
I think so, yes.
None of that was the case, huh? None of that was the case. How much is that?
It's totally wrong. Totally wrong.
And also, which goes to the point of these assumptions that are made, these mistaken identity things. Police officers are just humans. I always have to say this. They're just guys who then they clock in and then put on all of their uniforms and pack the gun and then all the equipment that goes on. They're just guys. They can do the same thing like anyone else. I know that guy. Except then they have this particular officer had the thought of, let me go do something about it. In a dark parking lot, in a car, I know that guy, I'm gonna go start shooting at him. Because there's a disregard for life. Whether or not you have the right guy, it doesn't matter. I know I do. And when you're wrong, then what's the result? The kid barely makes it though. So the fact we can put this much trust in folks, and that just because their job is to enforce whatever it is they feel like enforcing at the time, and then we have to just live with the results of it. That's one of the definite things that has to be changed with the way we allow them to just go about their day. It sucks, man. It keeps happening, and then what's the change that's gonna happen?
Yeah, I keep hoping that if more and more cops lose their jobs, or in this case, he's been charged with 2 counts of first-degree felony aggravated assault by a public servant. He could potentially face 5 to 99 years. And by the way, there's gonna be a pre-hearing in this case on the 23rd. So we're gonna learn a little bit more in about 1 week. We're gonna continue to track this case as it moves forward because of how devastatingly unnecessary every bit of this was. But I don't know, man. It doesn't really seem like it's changing people's behavior. It doesn't seem like all of the Karen videos are getting people to be a little bit less crazy in public. It doesn't seem like some lessons can be learned if people have whatever psychological or emotional incentive to not learn it. But we keep hoping, and that's all that at this point we can do. That is unfortunately all the time we have for our first hour. Thank you everyone on the linear platforms or on the podcast. We have a lot more to talk about though in the aftermath, so don't go anywhere. Jayar and I'll be back after this.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Damage Report. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Johnny DeRolla. I'll see you soon.